This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets. The U.S. Department of Energy said on Friday it awarded supply contracts to 5 companies to deliver 3.1 million barrels of crude oil to the Strategic Petroleum Reserve in August at an average price of $73 per barrel. The DOE had announced the purchase plan in May as a step to refill the emergency stockpile after a record release following Russia's invasion of Ukraine last year. These 3 million barrels are being purchased for an average price of about $73 per barrel, lower than the average of about $95 per barrel that SPR crude was sold for in 2022, securing a good deal for taxpayers, the DOE said in a press release.
Oil prices fell more than $1 a barrel on Friday to record a second straight weekly decline, as disappointing Chinese data added to doubts about demand growth after Saudi Arabia's weekend decision to cut output. Brent crude futures fell $1.17, or 1.5%, to settle at $74.79 a barrel, while the U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude fell $1.12, or 1.6%, to $70.17 a barrel. Both benchmarks lost more than $3 on Thursday after a media report that a U.S.-Iran nuclear deal was imminent and would result in more supply. Prices pared losses after both countries denied the report, ending about $1 a barrel lower.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
Saudi Arabia kept under wraps its plan to make a deep cut to its own oil output during a weekend of OPEC Plus talks in Vienna, several OPEC Plus sources told Reuters, with some member states only learning about the reduction from the final news conference. Saudi Arabia is the top OPEC producer and the member with the most flexibility to raise or cut output, giving the kingdom unrivaled influence over the oil market, although the impact on oil prices since announcing its plans has been modest so far. The Saudi Energy Minister Prince Abdulaziz bin Salman has previously used the power of surprise in managing oil markets, where prices have come under pressure due to concerns about the weakness of the global economy and its impact on demand.
Russian gasoline exports grew by 37% year-on-year to 2.5 million tons from January to May, despite the impact of Western sanctions, the Kommersant newspaper said on Friday. The European Union introduced a ban on Russian refined oil products in February, prompting Moscow to redirect the bulk of its exports to other regions like Asia and Africa. The paper said, however, that Russia's daily gasoline exports fell in the first 6 days of June to an average of 2,800 tons per day, 4 times lower than at the end of May.
Next, we have the top news in metal markets.
The London Metal Exchange, LME, said on Friday it had received the first application to approve a new nickel brand for delivery against its nickel contract since it cut the waiting time for listing to 3 months from 6 to 9 months in March. The 146-year-old exchange has struggled to revive nickel volumes since prices jumped to a record above $100,000 a ton in disorderly trade in March 2022, forcing the LME to suspend the nickel market for the first time since 1988. Many nickel consumers, producers and traders who abandoned the market in the aftermath are yet to return, partly because of price volatility, which is restrained by daily price limits imposed by the world's largest and oldest forum for metals trading.
Copper prices rose on Friday, heading for a second weekly gain, on hopes of improved demand from top consumer China and lower inventories. 3-month copper on the LME was up 0.2% at $8,361 a metric ton after touching the highest since May 11 at $8,451 and briefly breaking above the 200-day moving average of $8,381. The metal used in the construction and power sectors is up 1.5% so far this week, moving further away from a 6-month low touched on May 24, on expectations that China will launch a stimulus package. We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector. The United Nations has helped boost Russian exports of food and fertilizers, facilitating a steady flow of ships to its ports and lower freight and insurance rates, a UN spokesman said on Friday after UN and Russian officials discussed the efforts. Top UN trade official Rebecca Grinspan met with Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Vershinin in Geneva on Friday as Moscow threatens to walk away from a deal allowing the safe export of food and fertilizer from Ukraine's Black Sea ports on July 17 if obstacles to its own such shipments are not removed.
That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.